Built in 1973, it was one of the older shopping malls and opened before there were long-term strategies on mall viability. Popular for a time, its occupancy dwindled in the late 90s, and it lost its movie theater and Sears by 2003, before becoming a neglected, poorly maintained, and sometimes dangerous commercial plaza that was outdone by nearby rivals and doomed by surrounding negative growth trends of the towns that kept it fed. The food court closed in 2006, and the last stores followed a year later. Sleepy Pines had its fans and grown adults who had gone there as children, paying it nostalgic visits, as all malls do. But by 2010, it had become a mostly forgotten derelict, with the parking lot full of weeds. 10 years later, lengthy demolition was in its final stages. I had been assigned the foreman of the construction of the building that would replace it, a large warehouse and distribution center for a major retailer. I would frequently pay the site a visit as the walls were torn down and the roof was gutted, myself having gone to the mall several times in my youth whenever my family was passing through the area, so I knew its layout well. By the winter of 2020, all that remained of the structure was the back wall of its atrium, which once overlooked the fountain. A painted mural on tiles covered that wall. Efforts to save the artwork delayed its destruction several times, but enough funds were never procured to bring the wishes of perhaps only a few dozen to fruition. Now, I'm no critic, but I always found it rather creepy anyway. European settlers amid a backdrop of pine trees, with the natives they drove out now instead depicted as their friends. Their faces were plain and simple, their eyes staring off into a space where there was once a skylight. On the other hand, the trees looked like they were made by a different painter, and one more talented. The pines were muted in their colors, but highly detailed, with layers of darkness in their shadows where you might expect mischievous forest creatures to reside. The swirling, intricate patterns of the nearly black paint took the forms of deranged beasts, if looked at closely enough. But I think it was just the artist having fun, not acting out with ill intent. It wasn't like the vast majority of shoppers would stand around and study the mural closely. Not when there were sales to be found and warm pretzels to be had. Now the mural itself would be coming down soon, and ground on the next building would be broken after the spring thaw. What little demolition remained was also put on hold while the earth was still frozen. I went to the site a few days after New Year's to get my last look at the public painting, exposed to the elements and surrounded by a landscape of snow. I checked in on the operations trailer while I was there, just to give my best wishes for 2020 to the guy in charge, who I had gotten to know over the years from various other projects. "Hey, you still like strange shit, right?" he asked me after a few minutes of us chatting about our holiday get-togethers. "Well, I got something you'll love. My guys found it just before they left for the winter. Now, I'm no good with electronics, so you might as well see what you can do with it." He handed me a GoPro camera, an earlier model that I would later learn was from 2013. The little box was in bad condition, but I didn't take it into consideration how bad at first. And it was true. I did collect oddities and yard sale objects with inexplicable backstories in my spare time. It wasn't the camera itself that might rival my greatest finds. It was the potential of the footage on board it, if it survived. If it could explain how the poor thing had been beaten into such bad shape, then the story of the object would be made all the better. I had a long winter ahead of me with little else to do, so I figured I could spend a few nights cracking it open and seeing what was on the memory card. Jesus, I replied as I studied it in my hand. It's like it melted. Yeah, we dug it up and couldn't tell what it was at first. I had no idea if there was some kind of fire here, but it doesn't even look like burn damage. Now, he made a good point. There was no sign of smoke, no bubbles in the material, no metal fatigue. It was like something had turned it into clay and had its way with misshaping it into a twisted piece of art. The glass of its LCD screen and lens was intact, but the body was warped, stretched, and compressed, as if by tiny fingers. If the memory card was still in one piece, I would never be able to pry it out. I'd have to carefully crack open the camera around it. Now, of course, I had a big collection of tools at home, so I knew I could do it. There was every chance the card was missing or corrupted or the data had been deleted, but now I was interested. I wanted to find out for certain. I told my friend that we should have lunch sometime, and I headed home. I was making good money, but I got to keep the house after the divorce and had yet to get around to moving out and finding a better place. It was small, and half of it was spread across cardboard boxes or otherwise just a neglected mess. My home office was the only decent room remaining, and it also featured my tool bench and the arsenal I would use to disassemble the scarred and malformed lump that used to be a high-tech recording device. I managed to break it open and separate several of its pieces, and eventually, the micro SD card fell out from its slot. It was perfectly readable and full of video files, which I transferred to my computer and organized by date. There were 23 in all, mostly recorded over the course of 2 days in December of 2013. With a cold, quiet winter outside my window, I turned up the heat, brewed some coffee, and went through the files, knowing nothing about the camera's owner or what they experienced when I began. I will summarize the portions that are more mundane or uneventful, and then I'll fully transcribe the rest. File number 1 was recorded on a chilly morning, with the operator obviously testing camera settings outside their house. No address can be seen, and the surroundings are typical suburbia, making the location difficult to identify. There's snow on the ground. It starts with the operator saying, "Nice," as they zoom out on their new camera's now empty box. They're inside their messy car, and they focus on the house for several seconds before the video ends. File number 2. The file created date indicates that this one was recorded just a couple hours later. A young woman, around 30, is watching a pot boil on a stove. She's a small brunette with a bubbly attitude and big blue eyes. Quickly discern that this is the operator's girlfriend. They're both happy and energetic, like they have their whole lives ahead of them. Definitely not married, and they've probably only been together a few months. I learned both of their names as the young man teases her a bit with the camera, and she remarks that she hopes he didn't spend too much on the new toy. I'm not going to share their real names, so let's just call them Mike and Jen. They clearly really like each other, and the clip ends after he tells her, "Well, this is a lot better than the old one. The mall videos are going to look great." Jenna stirs some stovetop sauce and smiles. File 3. Mike records some football in the yard at another house, even though the clip was made only a week after the previous. There's no snow present. In fact, everyone is running around in t-shirts, making it obvious that this was filmed much further south, away from cold weather. It's a Thanksgiving gathering, and Mike is filming his 3 younger cousins toss around the old pigskin outside, trying his hand at some sporty action shots. It keeps going for about 10 minutes, and friendly banter is shared among the family members. The cousins seem to like Mike. even as he keeps denying their requests to join in. At the end, Jenna walks out of the front door and tells everyone that the meal is ready. File number 4. Mike and Jenna visit a local mall in the area on Black Friday. It's large, with 2 floors, and doing well. The place is packed, and Mike gets a few minutes of the mall Santa and a line of kids waiting to see them. Jenna looks at the camera and smiles again. Mike comments that he hasn't been to a mall this busy in years. It definitely makes me nostalgic for the pre-pandemic days. File number 5. Mike is seen on the video for the first time at the mall, 10 minutes later. Jenna gets in some framing practice. Mike tries to humor her with some gestures, like he's introducing the place to an adoring, large audience. He says some things about the mall, but the crowd drowns him out. The camera isn't really known for its audio recording quality. This lasts for several minutes as Jenna gets used to the device and how to hold it steadily. Towards the end, she recommends getting some sort of mount for it, which it was designed to be used with. Mike agrees. File number 6. Now, things begin to get interesting. It's now December 15th. Jenna's doing another camera test around sunset. Mike is seen crossing the frame several times as he moves about, and she pans the camera. They're getting footage of the front of Sleepy Pines Mall, which has just recently closed. Snow covers the neglected parking lot. Mike tries the door and looks frustrated that it's locked. I hear the agitated version of his voice as he remarks that they should have come yesterday, but now it's too late. Jenna assures him that there must still be some way in, that someone had forgotten to lock one of the many doors. I understand now that they're urban explorers of some kind, though likely just kept things easy and focused on malls. Judging by Mike's response about that not being a good idea, I figured that they hadn't broken into a place before. Now I rechecked the closure date of Sleepy Pines, which was December 14th. They had just missed their chance to legally or easily get inside and film a dead mall. Mike sounds ready to give up, mentioning how well their previous trip went to another mall in the region, and that they are never going to get their subscriber count up at this rate. Jenna isn't so despondent. She wants to make her guy happy, and she mentions that since it took an hour to get out here, they should at least try to get in. Mike sighs, nods, and smiles. File 7. This is shot a half hour later. Now it's dark. Jenna is holding the camera, getting a selfie of both of them. They're under a buzzing wall light somewhere on the side of the mall, near a cracked open service door. They both look pleased, but it's clear that they're still amateurs at the newest hobby they want to do together. Hey guys, it's Mike and Jenna, she says with an awkward grin. So we're here at Sleepy Pines Mall, and we're going to explore it together. If you've watched our first 5 videos, well, then you know we're both interested in this sort of thing. We're just gonna go in for a quick look tonight, and then come back tomorrow during the day. I bet it's really creepy in there right now. All right, let's do this, Mike adds and sidesteps inside. He opens the door and beckons in the viewer, while Jenna snaps the camera into a shoulder mount. The service corridor is poorly lit, and the 2013 hardware doesn't have the sensor chip to shoot in the darkness very well. Digital noise fills the frame as they navigate their way into the mall proper, stumbling over some equipment, boxes, and cleaning material that had yet to be removed from the area. Commentary is nearly non-existent until they find another door and emerge into a side hallway that brings them to the atrium. And most of the mall's lights are still going, although the mural is bathed in shadow, giving its already creepy staring faces an ominous presence in the nearly empty building. For several minutes, the couple of explorers walk around, getting footage of the vacated stores. They reach the other end of the mall and head back to where they began, saying very little as they collect footage. The clip ends with a 10-second hold on the mural, during which Mike can be heard laughing after Jenna remarks, "Yeah, that is a little scary." File number 8. Now, the two definitely don't have a script. As they perform a longer second walkthrough, they chat idly about how they feel about the place and experiences from past visits to other malls, just to fill dead air. Jenna is at least a competent cinematographer, even if her boyfriend leaves much to be desired in the information side of things. If they weren't planning to add some interesting voiceover narration in post, they would have 2 very dull videos on their hands. It's around the 5-minute mark in this clip, while Jenna shows off the closed Dollar Theater, that Mike finally mentions some personal history. "I learned that he used to live in this area as a kid and has fond memories of visiting Sleepy Pines, back when it had busy weekends and few closed doors. Some of my earliest memories were coming here with my dad when I was 5, he tells Jenna. "So it must have been around 1991. I met Santa right over there." He points to a wide open liminal space under a skylight in the center of the mall. "It's sad what happens to this place is how the memories fade over time, you know? Is that why you were so mad when you found out you missed its last day?" Jenna asks, now keeping him in frame like they're having an interview. He shrugs. "Well, I paid a visit a year ago when it was already deep into the shitter. It would have just been symbolic or something, but we're both here now, right?" He pauses and looks away. "You ready to go? We can get more footage tomorrow during the day. We just have to keep that door from locking." "Yeah, the place is starting to get to me. Empty malls at night are unnatural." They turn around and head towards the hallway where they came in. On the way, Jenna suddenly stops and swings the camera around. She stares into a lightless corridor, so dark that the sensors can't pick up anything. A posted sign indicates that the mall security center is at the end of the hall. She lingers on it for an unusual amount of time, and Mike asks off-screen what she's looking at. "Don't you hear that?" she asks, nervousness in her voice. I turn up the volume as much as I can, but nothing strange passes through my headphones. If she's hearing something, the camera didn't pick it up. She looks into that corridor as if more petrified by fright than curious. In the end, it takes Mike dragging her away to break her focus, at which point she seems to snap out of it. The clip ends with Mike staring at her and asking, "What's wrong?" If she gives him an answer, she does so when the camera is off. Now, at this point, I get onto YouTube and search for their names. Adding mall into the search form on a second try actually brings me to their page. They were really just getting their start. Their channel only has 6 subscribers. 5 videos with only about a dozen views each, and no uploads for over 7 years. I skimmed through their videos, all visits to other malls, and find nothing out of the ordinary. Their most recent uploads started showing the signs of professionalism, with some of that voiceover narration they badly needed. Mike shares some history of the empty mall in another state they visited, and he does so with some enthusiasm. He and Jenna smile throughout their trip, and it looks like they're having a good time walking through a shopping plaza of memories. They were one of YouTube's earlier dead mall channels, and they had some promise. But seeing their inactivity only confirms my worries that something bad had happened to them. And a few minutes of Googling later, I find out that they've been reported missing in early January of 2014. It's at least a full 2 weeks after they started working on their ill-fated video. Now, naturally, I get the urge to skip to the end to find out what may have happened to them. But I convince myself to keep going through the files in order to take this trip with them as their last expedition's first viewer. Now, on a second look of the last few minutes of this file, I notice 2 pink pixels in random spots of the video. I know it's a sign of sensor damage, and I trace it back to when Jenna focused the camera into the dark hallway. After 30 seconds, 1 dead pixel shows up. A little later, the next arrives. It's as if there's something at the end of that corridor that is emitting a damaging, invisible light or other energetic phenomena, which steadily overloads the camera sensor. But I don't know what else could do such a thing, other than a powerful laser or radiation. And so eagerly, I move on to the next clip. File number 9. The dead pixels are here to stay. They're present throughout the video. I see Sleepy Pine's exterior again, this time early in the morning. Mike stands at the side entrance, his breath filling the cold air. He gives Jenna a thumbs up. She comes over and points the camera at both of them. "I'm Mike." "And I'm Jenna," they then add in unison. "And today, we're exploring the Sleepy Pines Mall." Cute. They proceed inside and arrive at the atrium without cutting the shot, even when there's no reason to keep things all in one take. But Mike must have done some research while at whatever hotel the two stayed at the night prior, as he starts going over the basic details of the mall, its opening date and designer, a brief history of the area, a few controversies about its construction and maintenance record, and the stores that have come and gone, all got a mention. Though, not in a scripted way. Mike has all this stuff memorized and jumps from one bullet point to the next. Still, I'll give some props to the guy for remembering so much and getting it all on the first try. "Did we get it that time?" he asks when they return to the atrium. The fountain still hosts some coins and is half full of stagnant water. He smiles after Jenna quietly responds and adds, "Okay, keep that one." So, not actually their first try. I mean, I don't know how many attempts it took, since they must have kept deleting prior takes to keep memory space free. Before Jenna stops recording, Mike wanders around a little, looking into empty stores. Eventually, he suddenly notices that the red light remains on. "Are you still rolling?" "Mike, I think we should check out the security area." He sighs and looks a little annoyed. "Oh, come on, you still care about that?" "We've seen just about everything else. We should get everything on film before they tear this place down. Or there'll be rooms that are, forgotten forever, never archived. We don't need to be professionalists. But you went on and on last night about visits here with your family and friends, your memories of the holiday decorations, and seeing dollar movies. Really, Jenna? You're saying all this on camera. I mean, at least shut it off." The shot lingers a few moments later, before Mike looks fed up and starts approaching the camera. He's about to grab it when the clip ends. I guess every relationship has arguments, but it's a strange thing to have a fight about. It almost sounds like Jenna felt something was calling to her. File number 10. Mike now stands in front of the dark hallway, although now with the sunlight coming in through the nearby skylight, it's no longer pitch black. Mike looks like he's under just a little bit of duress. But I understand, knowing myself, that sometimes you just have to do what your significant other wants. "Alright, just take a quick look down this hallway," he says, lacking his typical enthusiasm. It would be a place you probably only saw if you tried to shoplift something or, filmed without permission like only criminal scum would do. Mike, Jenna exclaims. He fakes a smile and says, let's check it out. The camera has already acquired a third dead pixel before they even start moving into the hallway. More pop up as they get closer as the sensor becomes more and more permanently damaged. But with the camera on her shoulder and Mike leading the way, Jenna doesn't notice. It quickly becomes too dark for it to pick anything up again, but Mike turns on his phone's flashlight, which at least helps it show anything that's within its cone of light. They enter the security office and freeze for several seconds, an old desk and monitoring station in frame. What is that? Mike asks. Do you hear that? Yeah, it's some sort of electrical buzzing, Jenna answers. It's weird, right? What the hell, Jenna? Why are we even checking this place out? One of us is gonna get electrocuted. Can we just please get out of? Okay. I just thought there'd be more to see. She turns around to leave, but then looks back at Mike again after realizing he isn't moving. He's staring into a small room to the side. His light is on a sign that reads, Lost and Found. Now he's the one that seems to be under a spell and just has to know what's beyond the next door. Without saying anything, he opens it and goes inside, and Jenna silently follows. Now, what follows is difficult to describe. The video goes almost completely dark. For some reason, Jenna doesn't point the camera to whatever Mike is looking at until the end of this clip. His phone light is only seen at the very edge of the frame. They both examine what is evidently a strange object. What is that thing? Jenna asks. I have no idea. I've never seen anything like it. Oh God, it's almost like moving. Mike, don't. It's warm. How did this get here? Just stop touching the thing. It's dangerous. There's no such thing as a cursed object, Jen. I think we should just get this thing out into the light and get a better look at it. Oh, shit. What did you do, Mike? What's it doing? I don't know. I didn't... They turn and run out of the room, but the camera still can't pick up anything they might be hearing. The two are frantic, and the video, what little there is left to see, becomes a shaky mess. By now, scattered pink pixels partially cover the video, completely obscuring entire small segments of the frame. The two can be heard screaming in the last few seconds of the clip, which ends abruptly. With the darkness, I have no idea what kind of terror the two might have experienced. I would have thought that they were already dead, if this had been the last file on the card, or at best, someone else found the camera and recorded more video before they also mysteriously disappeared. Analyzing the clip frame by frame reveals two elements that just barely got burned into the digital film. As they turn to run, Mike's light sweeps over the strange object they came upon. Some sort of totem, made out of unknown dark material, maybe about 3 feet high. It sits in the middle of the lost and found room, on the floor, and is the only thing in the place at all. It's covered in carvings that form angular patterns, though I use that term loosely because there is no real pattern to the lines at all. They swirl and break off from one another in random, unappealing ways.